I love it when you do President Trump. I think it's the greatest. I really do. It's the
Real life, this is really happening. On January 20th, I, Donald J. Trump, will become the 45th President of the United States.
I'm getting the wig on me, and I'm sitting there the whole time going, China, China.
Ever wonder what happens when you poke a sleeping bear with a stick? Well, Alec Baldwin just found out, except the bear is orange and tweets like a teenager. Trump's having a full-blown Twitter meltdown, and it's all because Baldwin dared to make fun of his hair. Seriously, who knew the road to comedy gold was paved with spray tan and comb-overs? Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
Cursing and saying bad words. And I do pretty well for a while, you know what I mean? Then you look at each other and go, well, let's get, even Jesus would say, under these circumstances.
Yeah, right.
I am so excited to live in the White House. I'm even going to have a little pet, like all the presidents do. Bill Clinton had socks, Barack Obama had Bo.
Alright folks, let's talk about Alec Baldwin and his accidental comedy goldmine. You know how sometimes you take a gig thinking it's just a quick paycheck, and suddenly you're in the middle of a political firestorm? Well, that's pretty much what happened to our boy Alec. So there's Baldwin, thinking he's just doing a quick Trump bit for Saturday Night Live. No big deal, right? Just slap on some orange makeup, pucker up those lips, and squint real hard. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. But little did he know he was about to stumble into something bigger than Trump's ego. And that's saying something. At first, it was just another day at the office for Baldwin. He shows up, does his Trump impression, and figures that's that. But then, something weird happens. The impression goes viral faster than a cat video on the internet. Suddenly, everyone's talking about Baldwin's Trump. And you know who doesn't like it when people talk about someone else pretending to be him? The real Donald Trump. Before you know it, Trump's thumbs are working overtime on Twitter. He's tweeting up a storm, and let me tell you, it ain't pretty.
Hated him or had anything to do with. Lauren called me and said, you want to do this? And I go, no, I don't want to be Trump on TV. And because anytime you have any kind of mimicry.
I mean, I'm not gay, but I cannot wait to give it to that man for 4 years. And guys, I mean, who is excited for my inauguration day?
Trump's madder than a wet hen in a thunderstorm, and he's letting everyone know it. But here's the kicker. All those angry tweets? They're like free advertising for SNL. Talk about an own goal. Am I right? Now, Baldwin's sitting there, probably scratching his head and wondering how the heck he ended up in this mess. He signed up to do a funny voice, not to be the face of the anti-Trump movement. But that's showbiz for you, folks. 1 minute you're just doing your job, the next you're Trump's personal thorn in the side. And get this, SNL's ratings start climbing faster than Trump's blood pressure after a double cheeseburger. People are tuning in just to see what Baldwin's gonna do next. It's like the whole country's suddenly addicted to this weird political soap opera, and Baldwin's the unwitting star. Poor Alec. He's probably thinking, I'm an actor, not a political commentator. But too bad, buddy. You're in the spotlight now, whether you like it or not. Suddenly, he's not just Alec Baldwin, famous actor. He's Alec Baldwin, the guy who gets under Trump's skin just by existing. Now, you might be wondering, how's Trump gonna respond to all this attention? Will he ignore it and focus on, oh, I don't know, running the country? Ha, good one. Nah, Trump's not exactly known for turning the other cheek. He's more of a tweet first, ask questions never kind of guy. And boy, does he tweet. It's like every time Baldwin does his impression, Trump's phone gets a notification saying, hey, someone's making fun of you. Better lash out. And lash out he does. It's a never-ending cycle of Baldwin impersonating Trump, Trump getting mad, and SNL's ratings going through the roof. But here's the real kicker, Trump's angry tweets. They're basically free advertising for SNL. It's like he's standing on top of Trump Tower with a megaphone yelling, hey everyone, watch this show that makes fun of me. Oh, talk about shooting yourself in the foot. Or in Trump's case, tweeting yourself in the foot. So there's Baldwin, stuck in this weird limbo. He's accidentally become the face of anti-Trump comedy, whether he likes it or not. He probably wakes up every morning, checks his phone, and thinks, what's the orange menace said about me today? It's gotta be a strange way to live, knowing that the President of the United States is obsessed with your comedy routine.
I'm not lobbying, but I mean, people would say, would you do it? And there's a couple guys on the internet who are like, no, please, I'm the only man
Oh,
who should
yeah.
play Trump.
Well, I definitely did not pay to do that. And we have got some of the biggest performers in the world lined up. Hold on to your tits and bits because we...
You know how they say there's no such thing as bad publicity? Well, Trump was about to give SNL the kind of free advertising that would make even the shadiest infomercial salesman jealous. His Twitter tantrums were like rocket fuel for Baldwin's impression. But just how high could those ratings go? Let's just say higher than Trump's tower, and that's saying something. Remember when presidents used to, actually do president stuff? Not our boy Donnie. Nope. He was too busy throwing a digital hissy fit over a comedy show. It's like he woke up one day and thought, you know what? Running the country is boring. I'm gonna pick a fight with a guy who pretends to be me on TV instead. So there's Trump, thumbs a-blazing, tweeting up a storm about Baldwin's impression. And get this, every time he hit that tweet button, SNL's ratings went through the roof. It's like he was trying to put out a fire with gasoline, but the fire was ratings and the gasoline was his own angry words. Talk about a backfire. The more Trump tweeted, the more popular Baldwin's impression became. It was like watching a toddler's temper tantrum, but with worse spelling and a national audience. People started tuning into SNL just to see what would make Trump mad next. It was like a twisted game of poke the bear, except the bear was orange and had tiny hands. Trump's anger became the unofficial measure of Baldwin's success. One media analyst even said, Trump's tweets became a measure of Baldwin's success, turning his outrage into a ratings boon for the show. Can you imagine? The President of the United States accidentally becoming SNL's best promoter. It's like he was Baldwin's unofficial hype man, except instead of shouting, yeah boy, he was screaming fake news at 3 a.m.
And you've seen SNL, and the moment the stage manager takes me to my mark for the first dress rehearsal at 8 o'clock, I had no idea what I was going to do.
Jackie, what's her face? And best of all, we've got the one rockette with the least money in her savings.
The whole situation was so ridiculous, it was like watching a comedy sketch about a president getting mad at a comedy sketch. Meta, right? Baldwin's impression of Trump became such a big deal that people were tuning in just to see what would provoke Trump's next Twitter tantrum. It's like Baldwin accidentally became an unofficial political commentator armed with nothing but a bad wig and an exaggerated pout. And the craziest part, the more Trump expressed his anger on Twitter, the more popular Baldwin's impression became. It was a feedback loop of fury and laughter. Trump would tweet, ratings would soar, Baldwin would do another impression, and round we'd go. It was like a merry-go-round of madness, powered by presidential pettiness.
Freaked out. The guy steals your parking spot, you're like,
Now, as you all know, this is my first press conference in 6 months, and there is so much to talk about. I'm bringing jobs back. I'm picking the best cabinet.
You've got to wonder how far Trump would go in his Twitter tirades. Would he declare SNL an enemy of the state? Try to build a wall around 30 Rock? Maybe he'd try to trademark the phrase, "You're fired." Oh wait, he already did that. But seriously, every time you thought he couldn't possibly get any more worked up, he'd prove you wrong. It was like watching a guy try to arm wrestle his own reflection. Entertaining, but kind of sad. Well, folks, it looks like Alec Baldwin's Trump impression was the gift that kept on giving. And giving until Baldwin probably wished he could return it. Talk about being careful what you wish for. At first, Baldwin's Trump act was like striking comedy gold. He'd slap on that ridiculous wig, pucker up those lips, and suddenly he was the hottest thing on TV since sliced bread learned how to dance. People couldn't get enough of it. They'd tune in every week, ready to laugh their butts off at Baldwin's spot-on impression of the tweeter-in-chief. But here's the thing about playing Trump. It's like eating nothing but fast food for years. Sure, it tastes great at first, but eventually you start to feel a little off. And that's exactly what happened to our boy Alec. Before he knew it, Baldwin couldn't go anywhere without people begging him to do Trump. It was like he'd become a human jukebox, but instead of playing Sweet Caroline for the millionth time, he was stuck doing his best fake news impression. Imagine trying to order a coffee and having the barista ask you to build a wall around their tip jar. Talk about a venti-sized headache. But it wasn't just strangers who were affected by Baldwin's Trump mania. Even his own kids started to wonder if dad was turning into a real life Oompa Loompa. Can you imagine the awkward family dinners? Dad, can you pass the salt and maybe ease up on the self-tanner while you're at it?
There are people who, now that he's not going to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, there are people who are lobbying to play Trump at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Big Russian pee-pee party?
No, I am not talking about the PP. Because it didn't happen. And it wasn't as cool as it sounded.
As time went on, the line between Baldwin and Trump started to blur in people's minds. It was like Baldwin had put on a Trump mask for Halloween, but then forgot to take it off. Every time Trump tweeted some new nonsense, Baldwin felt compelled to respond as Trump. It was like a never-ending game of who's on first, but with more fake hair and tiny hands. Baldwin started to wonder if this was still funny, or if it had morphed into something else entirely. He'd gone from being just another actor to suddenly having the ear of the nation. People were looking to him for political commentary, for crying out loud. It was like he'd accidentally stumbled into being the court jester of American politics. The pressure was real, folks. Baldwin found himself wrestling with the responsibility of his newfound influence. He wasn't just making people laugh anymore. He was shaping public opinion. That's a pretty heavy burden for a guy who just wanted to make some jokes and maybe win an Emmy or two. As the impression continued to dominate headlines and water cooler conversations, Baldwin started to feel the strain. He admitted to contemplating quitting the impression multiple times. It's like he was stuck in a Trump-shaped quicksand. The more he struggled, the deeper he sank. It turned into a full-blown political movement, Baldwin remarked, probably while staring at his reflection and wondering if his hair was starting to look a little too wispy. Who knew a bad wig and some orange makeup could spark a revolution?
And I've said this countless times, like, to me, Trump was someone who, he's always searching for a stronger, better word, and he never finds it.
Did you guys, like, all pee? Or did you just, like, watch them pee?
Guys, no, I do not want to talk about the PP.
The million-dollar question on everyone's mind was, would Baldwin continue the impression or call it quits? Would he keep donning the Trump suit, metaphorically speaking, of course? We all know Trump's suits don't actually fit. Or would he hang up the wig for good? Well, folks, it looks like Baldwin's Trump impression wasn't just a silly SNL skit anymore. It was turning into a full-blown political funhouse mirror, warping reality faster than you can say kafef. You see, as Baldwin's portrayal gained more airtime, something weird started happening. People couldn't look at the real Trump without seeing Baldwin's exaggerated version. It was like Baldwin had created a Trump-shaped filter that everyone was looking through, and let me tell you, that filter was orange, loud, and had really tiny hands. Baldwin's Trump became the Trump that everyone remembered. His pouty lips, squinty eyes, and that weird hand-waving thing he did, they became more real to people than the actual president's mannerisms. It was like Baldwin had hijacked Trump's image and was driving it straight into crazy town.
Whoever the president hates seeing do it the most, and that's undoubtedly you.
I say so.
Wouldn't you love to be in that room with him?
I want to talk about what is really important, which is jobs, okay? Because I am going to bring back a thick stream of jobs back.
But here's where it gets really nutty. People started using Baldwin's impression as a reference point for the real Trump. It was like a game of who wore it better, except the contestants were the President of the United States and a guy pretending to be the President of the United States. And spoiler alert, the pretend president was winning.
I tried to stick my face out, my mouth out. I was in the makeup room, they're putting my wig on, and I literally, it was like a scene from like a mental hospital.
Whiz at jobs. This would be a golden opportunity for me as president to make a big splash. Now, who's with me? I know you're in. How about you?
The impression became so ingrained in people's minds that they started quoting Baldwin's Trump in everyday conversations. You'd hear people at the water coolers saying things like, "It's gonna be huge," or "We're gonna build a wall and it's gonna be a great wall." But they weren't quoting Trump, they were quoting Baldwin quoting Trump. It was like a weird game of political telephone where the message kept getting more ridiculous with each retelling. This funhouse mirror effect didn't just stop at mimicry. Oh no, it went much deeper than that. Baldwin's impression became a way for people to process the absurdity of Trump's presidency. It was like Baldwin had given everyone a pair of comedy glasses that made the news easier to digest. Suddenly, Baldwin wasn't just an actor doing an impression. He had accidentally turned himself into a political commentator. His exaggerated takes on Trump's behavior became a lens through which many viewed the actual president's actions. It was like Baldwin had created a Trump to English dictionary, and everyone was using it to decipher what was happening in Washington. Media analysts started noticing this funhouse mirror effect too. They pointed out how Baldwin's comedic take was reflecting the absurdity of Trump's real-life actions back at the audience, making making them seem even more ridiculous. It was like Baldwin had set up a mirror at a carnival, and every time Trump did something, it came out looking twice as wacky in Baldwin's reflection. This impression didn't just make people laugh, it changed how they engaged with politics. Baldwin's Trump became a way for folks to critique the political landscape without feeling like they were drowning in depressing news. It highlighted the disconnect between Trump's words and reality, making it easier for people to wrap their heads around complex political issues. Who knew that a bad wig and some orange makeup could spark a political revolution?
It's usually somebody that you appreciate. You have some
Right.
appreciation.
Right.
So they said to me, Trump, and I didn't hate Trump. I just said, I don't want to do that. And Tina and Lauren kind of pushed me, and I do it.
The biggest, strongest, steadiest stream you've ever seen. This country will be literally showered with jobs.
But here's the kicker. The more popular Baldwin's impression became, the more it overshadowed the real Trump. It was like Baldwin had created this larger-than-life cartoon version of Trump that was easier for people to understand and react to than the actual president. The line between reality and satire was getting blurrier by the day. Who would have thought a guy with a bad wig and orange makeup could accidentally change politics? Alec Baldwin's Trump impression didn't just tickle our funny bones. It became a major player in shaping public opinion. It's like Baldwin stumbled into a political goldmine, but instead of nuggets, he found Trump's toupee. Political nerds have been yakking about how Baldwin's comedy routine is more than just laughs. It's like a sneaky little ninja infiltrating our brains and influencing how we think about politics. Remember when Jon Stewart was roasting Bush on The Daily Show? Same deal, but with more spray tan. In the end, it's hard to tell who's imitating who. Is Trump trying to out-Trump Baldwin? Is Baldwin becoming more Trump-like? It's like a weird political version of Inception. Maybe all this laughter is just what the doctor ordered for our politically divided nation. After all, nothing brings people together like making fun of the guy in charge, right?